Hail, hail! Good evening, folks, and welcome along to the Monday night show of the Endless Celts Podcast. I'm Anthony, and delighted to be joined alongside two legends of the podcasting world. First off, Ross. How you doing tonight, son?
Hey, I'm good, mate. Ain't no legend, but aye, all good. Just looking forward to talking about the weekend's game.
Absolutely, always good to have you on, son. And the man behind all the controls today, and the reason why we're running 5 minutes behind. I'm only kidding, son. Franny's on the house as well. How you doing, son?
I've been the one with the technical issues, and just to touch on Paul Dyer, I'm an electrician as well, and that's what I've done. I switched it on and back off, and it worked, mate. It worked. We're here.
Just sign him up for some Apple Genius weekends at the Apple Store. Tell you, it's all good. But so, welcome along, guys. As I say, and welcome along everyone in the comments as well. Get involved in the show. Franny will be bringing up all the comments and stuff as well, and hopefully get involved in looking back, a good chat and looking back on what was another good result and weekend for the boys. And also to our show sponsor as well, Shamna Clothing inspired by the terrace culture. Get yourself on there for a wee discount. Some cracking stuff online. I've not been paid yet, so I've not treated myself yet, but I definitely will come payday at the end of the month. 5-week months, man. Horrible. Absolutely horrible thing to do. But we'll just get sort of stuck right into it, Ross. Obviously, we were at home to Hibs at the weekend. It was a game which in the reverse fixture back in September, we won 6-1. Not quite as free-flowing this Saturday. It was by no means a classic, but nonetheless, and another vital 3 points were secured.
Aye, absolutely. I was at the 6-1 the last time at Parkhead. I was at that one, and they were brilliant that day. Not so much on Saturday. The first half, I don't think they weren't good in the first half, but I think they started the game pretty well. The first 10 minutes, maybe 15, they could have been a couple of goals up, wasn't it, for David Marshall. Felt Kyogo, his early chance maybe should have went with his head, but he sort of improvised. Doesn't get enough on it, but it's still a decent save for Marshall. But they two chances don't go in, and then Hibs get into their rhythm. Their rhythm being trying to break our rhythm with everything bar football. And I mean, I don't mind teams setting up to be defensive and like play to their strengths. That isn't even Hibs' strength, but to come to Parkhead, I think the last time they lost 6-1, their managers realised that we can't beat them. We need to really be difficult to beat, which they made themselves. But all the stuff that went with it was a piece of nonsense. But again, we weren't free flowing. But that's maybe a few times the last 4 or 5 weeks we've not been free flowing. But once again, like always, we get the job done because we just score goals for fun. Even if we're playing bad, we just make that many chances that eventually you're going to take one or two, and that's what happened again on Saturday.
It certainly did, and as Paul says, that's 9 games to go now. It is literally, we are at that point really, Franco, where it's not really about performance as such, as much as we enjoy a good performance as well as a good result, but we just want to kind of wrap this up as quickly as we possibly can. You know, there's still, as I say, 9 games to go, but we're 9 points clear, essentially 10 with the goal difference. We just want to kind of keep these games ticking over.
Well, that's it. You just want to keep ticking over. You've got the cup game coming up, so you do want performances to be better than what they were on Saturday. But I think in the main, they've not been not what they were maybe just after the World Cup. We have had a run of sort of fixtures. We have turned in some good performances, but like Ross said, it's not been the free flowing that you'd maybe say we're used to as such, but we've been getting the results. But it's one of them. Like Ross, I never seen the first half, but I seen the highlights. I did see the Jota and Kyogo chance. I think Kyogo should go with his head, but I think he scored one in his first season, like last season, similar against Aberdeen, when maybe he went with the chest. So he's maybe just thinking the same. He's a couple yards out, probably thinks he just needs to get a decent contact on it, which he does, and it goes in. But it was just one of them which goes straight to Marshall and he makes the save. But it was what I see, like obviously, the second half, it did seem like a funny game. One of the ones where they happen usually more than once in a season. I think, like we spoke about it and things. You tend to get a few games in a season where you'll have to grind out a result and turn in that type of game where you just need one thing to maybe go in your favour. Like not, I think it was a penalty, but just get something like a penalty where you're not actually having to create a clear-cut chance and something just to go in your favour, so to speak. And you just sometimes you've just got to go get the type of games out the way, and it's just move on to the next one. Like I say, you've just got to grind some results out. Like Ross said, St Mirren's kind of showed how to beat us by sitting in. You've got to get a bit of luck with that, by sitting in and then try to play on the counter maybe, or big goal direct a wee bit quicker. So Hibs are also trying to do that. They were disrupting the flow of the game. Things like I think Lee Johnson chucked the ball on twice for the dugout. Madness.
One of his coaches done it as well. It wasn't just him. He got
it happened twice.
For it, but there was more. Yeah,
it's just mental, absolute mental. But teams have got to kind of have to try and do things, and I think it's a testament to us that on days like that where it wasn't our best performance, probably arguably on memory it was probably our poorest, certainly at Parkhead this season. But we managed to get the result, and that's all that really matters at this stage. It keeps the confidence up, keeps you believing.
It certainly does. And as I say, just as games are, the end of the season, we're coming after this international breaks, very much the business end. We just want to be in as strong a position as we possibly can. We'll obviously get touching on some of the other big talking points, Ross, just as the show unfolds. But as I say, for us all, that it was a bit of a scrappy game. It wasn't without its talking points and incidents. One of the ones definitely on the negative side was the first sort of thing to come along was the potential injury to Rio Hatate, a player who he's not someone who makes a case for going down a lot or anything. So whenever he's complaining of having to come off the park, it's well, hopefully it's not too serious, but it's certainly serious enough for him to stop playing for the match for that game. We just hope that this 2-week break can give him a bit of respite and they can get back fully fit.
I mean, that's it. It's the international break in that sense is come at a good time, but you just hope that. I think they were talking about it might be his hamstring. You just hope that it's more precaution. What's that? Aye, I know that's 100%. But you just hope that it's precaution. But it didn't look good. He did look as if he was in a bit of pain, wasn't he? It wasn't like there was nothing and we'd just take him off here just for the sake of it, because the game wasn't won, it was 0-0 at the time, I'm sure. So there is definitely something, but hopefully it's no like a proper hamstring tear, and which you're looking at like, I don't know, 4 weeks to 6 weeks maybe. You hope that it's one of the ones. You don't want to rush him back either, because we've got like obviously the semi-final. You don't want to do. Last season we rushed Kyogo back for the cup final. He won us the cup, but then we lost him for a number of weeks. Obviously, we had Giakoumakis to come in. Hatate, it would be a massive, massive loss in the middle of that park. I dare say that we would probably still just get away with it for the most part in most domestic games, but that semi-final, having them at Parkhead in a couple of weeks' time, I think it's the 8th, you want him to be there, fully fit and ready to go, because you want to go into the games with your strongest possible team, and Hatate is obviously part of that.
Yeah, would you absolutely. Would you risk Hatate in the semi-final, even if it meant missing the rest of the season? Because I would argue the semi-finals are the biggest game of this. No.
I probably would.
Actually, got the league game before that, though.
I know, but I think the league's all but done and dusted. I wouldn't risk him in the league game, but I would probably risk him in the semi-final if it meant to try and get your best team out.
Mm-hmm. True. Like you say, very much depend on
at the high risk that you would lose him for the rest of the season. I would probably do it similar, but probably his attitude with Kyogo was. Probably knew the high risk
certainly,
of losing him.
if we manage, I say manage, I think we will. But if we go and beat Rangers, if Hatate's no back for the Rangers game, if he's not quite fit, you don't chance it. But if we get the win in that game, we would expect him to be fit for the semi-final because that's nearer the end of the month. But if he wasn't, and he was sort of maybe 70-80%, I think you go with him, I think you go with him in the semi-final. Because then the league's almost, well, it's pretty much, it will be done if we beat them in the next game at Parkhead. So, aye. But hopefully it's no risk. Hopefully he's just fit.
That's it. Well, that's the thing, Franco. Obviously, there was a lot made sort of the last week or so since the Japan national team's announcement was made, and there's been all sorts of kind of repercussions from that and discussion. But it's probably ended up, ironically, it's worked out perfect for Celtic because he now has this kind of 2-week respite to just making sure he can be continually assessed by the Celtic medical team, so that we'll know, sort of first and foremost when he will be sort of fit for him to be picked. It wouldn't be a risk, so to speak.
Well, that's it. I mean, I've said it countless times. Japan's midfield must be superb if Hatate's not getting in it. I know the Japan coach said obviously he's looking at the future, but what is Hatate, 24 or something? So by the time the next World Cup comes round, you could argue he'd be in his prime. The Kyogo one, I could kind of understand because he'd be 31, 32 then. Appreciate players are going a wee bit better now, but that I can understand that not looking towards the future and stuff like that with Kyogo. But I think the break, like I think Ross mentioned it earlier, the break is coming at a great time for us because Taylor obviously went off injured. I think what I seen in the game, he was looking a wee bit uncomfortable. I don't know if I was reading too much into the fact that his socks were pretty much down at his ankles as well. I've never really probably reading too much into that, but just because he went off injured. But I think I don't know the sort of seriousness of Bhoys injury. I'm hoping again that's just a couple of weeks again. He'll be good to go for Ross County because I think we did miss him as well. But I think, like Ross said, that the break's coming at a great time for us. It gives Hatate, the others, just a chance to rest up. And I don't know if we'll maybe give the guys that are not on international duty maybe 3-4 days off or something and just get them back into training. We know he prefers them in the training ground, so they maybe not get that time off. But I think they'll be allowed some time off and we'll come back in a couple of weeks just fresh and ready to go to Ross County. So it's the break, I think, has come at a key time again for us. I think it was something similar a wee bit earlier last season, was it not? The break came at a great time for us as well when we brought it. We forced everybody to bring it forward.
That's it, yeah. Celtic and the Scottish Government co-conspired bring the economy down to help us get a chance of clawing a back 6-point lead. That is one of the many crazy thoughts in the mind of your average Daily Record reader. But Rod, so I was going to go straight back to Franco, but then I'm remembering as he says that he didn't see the first half, so I think it's probably best I come back to you for this one. It's our favourite part of the show. It's sadly become a regular feature since October. It's time for our favourite moment, VAR Watch. Few incidents. First one, well, I say it's a red card incident. It's probably best to say it's 2 yellow cards, which is not quite the same thing. Hibs striker Yuan was booked for a foul on Starfelt initially, and then received his second yellow after coming together with Carter Vickers. There was then 3 penalty incidents. First one was awarded to Hibs on the back of a foul, a shirt pull by Starfelt. The second one, I think it was a foul on Carter Vickers for Celtic, with free kick coming into the box, and finally when Abada was clean through and initially was deemed to have been fouled by David Marshall, the VAR cameras showed that the Israeli had actually tripped and fell over himself, so the decision was reversed. As I say, it was a kind of pretty busy day for the men in black. What were your own thoughts on the incidents? I have to say, personally, myself, I felt the red card, or say the second yellow, was quite harsh for Hibs.
I would have to agree with that. I think it was more than harsh. I think the guy, they're jostling for the ball. Carter Vickers comes over the top of him. You could say, you could make a case as Carter Vickers fouling him. He's trying to get to the ball. He's come through sort of back of him. He's dipped his head. He's went to hook the ball. It's one of the things. You see it all the time. But what I will say is, you see it all the time, but you also see the guy who brings his foot up, not high, but brings it up. They tend to get booked. That's not me saying it was a booting. For me, it absolutely wasn't a booting. Initially, his first booting, I initially thought that could have been a straight red. And I seen a couple of replays during the game, but you're in the emotion of the game, and I was still saying straight red. But I watched the highlights last night on Sports Scene. It was a booking. I thought do you know that way when he comes into block and he puts his foot up? I thought he'd actually like pushed his. Do you know that way you push your foot down with a bit of force? But he actually hadn't. He catches Starfelt. It's one of the ones you see all the time, just a coming together. It is a booting. But Hibs, they should rightfully feel aggrieved that he was sent off, I have to say. In terms of the penalty incidents, the Hibs one, Starfelt, I think you see it a lot. You see it all the time. I think he makes a silly decision. He gets caught in his heels and he realises that the Hibs player's going to get away from him. He tries to just like feel for him, if you like, but he gets a hold of his t-shirt, his top, and you have to say, if it's up the other end, you're looking for the penalty. But at the same time, if you're getting that as a penalty, you're maybe getting 5 or 6 penalties a game, corner kicks. And I think that's why Celtic probably got their penalty. Because Hibs got theirs, the referee felt, I have to give this here. Even though it's probably it's erring on the soft side. But so is the Starfelt one. I would probably say Hibs' penalty was more of a penalty than the Celtic one, but they were both off the soft variety. Was that it? I can't remember. Was there any other ones?
The Celtic one. The Abada one at the end.
Oh, aye. They got that bang on. Abada, just his foot went into the ground and just tripped up, basically, and the referee changed his mind, rightly so.
VAR done its job, That's what VAR was there for.
Yeah, well, that's it. You don't mind it. I'd actually, we were going out on Saturday night, so we'd left the game by that point, which I don't normally like doing. I normally like to stay to the end, but I have to say, when I watched it back, they said it didn't actually take even as long as what these incidents are normally taking to overturn. So if the right decision's been made, and it's been made quite quickly, then that's, like you say, Franny, it's what it should be there for. But your own thoughts on the incidents, Brian? I'm sure you've probably seen the game, or even those incidents back by now. Do you have any? Do you think any of the decisions were wrong, or
nah?
Right?
Well, I'm sort of a similar game to use it. I think the yellow card that led to the red card is harsh, but you kind of understand it. Just the way it is. It's one of the ones that could have went either way. I think if it didn't get booked, nobody would have complained, but it's what just kind of understand the booking. The Hibs penalty, it is soft, but he's had a hold his jersey for a good few seconds in it, and kind of gives him a wee push as well. It's absolutely stupid because I think Taylor's in front of him as well. They've kind of got Celtic are set up well for it, and it's just one of these silly moments that Starfelt has.
It's a Starfelt foul.
It is. And
that's a speciality.
And it's just one of the ones. It's they just, I don't know. It does so good, and then you tend to forget a lot of it because he has the moments. And it's, for me, it's a penalty. It was maybe not as clear a shirt pull as the one that O had the other week at St Mirren, but it was a shirt pull nonetheless. It's apparently the referees are meant to be looking out. I think the length of the time he's maybe held his shirt. I don't really think he's pulled him or anything like that, essentially, and put him off. But then it's the push as well. And then the Celtic one, I think is a wee bit generous, to be fair. I think it's a penalty, but it is very soft. I think very soft.
Aye,
And the bad one's bang on. Aye, sorry, I totally forgot.
Aye,
That's never a penalty.
Aye, I think I'm kind of. I must admit, Ross, I'm actually glad you were saying about the red card or potential red to start with, because I must admit, similar to Monty, had a few before the game, and perhaps we've seen it through some tinted specs, but I was going absolutely tonto at the game for I thought it was a straight red to start with as well. But then, ironically, when the game was good, one of the things I'll say about you, and he didn't really, CCV and nobody else, there was nobody in the crowd angling for another booking for you, and by the same token, he didn't exactly protest much when he got sent off. I mean, normally, not that you're condoning anything that Mitrovic done yesterday at Old Trafford, but when it's such a soft one like that, you kind of expect him to be, quite irate about it. But he sort of just shrugged his shoulders and off he went, which I thought was a bit strange.
I think that sort of. Sorry, I'm just going to say, I think that sort of pays to what I was saying in terms of, like, players get booked for that all the time. It's not a booking, but it's like the ones when a defender's facing his own goal and he's running back and the striker puts him under a bit of pressure and he throws his head to the ground. The referee goes, "Oh, that's a foul." It's the same with that. Oh, it's high feet. He's kicked him in the face. He's not kicked him in the face. He's put his head down. They've met in the middle, but the guy bringing the foot up always gets the booting because it's more dangerous than going in with your head. But I think that's probably why he's not really, as you say, being irate. But for me, it's not a booting. But
I have to say I agree. I thought it was quite harsh, although I do. Funnily enough, Alistair, it was a good point you made there. Just before we got that penalty, there was one. The entire stadium was screaming for it. I have to say I didn't see it myself, so I can't. And I've not seen Sports Scene or anything like that, so I don't know to be able to put my own judgment on it. I don't know if any of you guys seen.
Was that the possible handball?
Yeah. What was your thoughts?
Is that the one where it hits his leg and comes up and hits him? Did we have one like that?
I thought it hit his leg. It was the boy that excuse me. It was the boy that gave the penalty away. I think it was his block, if I remember right. Maybe Alistair could confirm that in the comments, but I felt it hit his leg.
I might be thinking of the total wrong bit as well, but I'm sure it was obviously after we got the penalty. I'm sure it was the corner that led to our goal, like O's goal. I thought the boy handballed in that one as well. I could be thinking of a different bit of the game.
You might be right. I remember just screaming handball quite a lot on Saturday, but again, that might have been due to the copious amounts of tenants I drank before the game.
I've obviously only seen the highlights. Obviously I've seen the second half and highlights, but it's like when you're stuck in the emotion of the game as well, I think you tend to see things that you want to see. And some of the situations there with the handballs.
Yeah, I have to say, all in all, with Starfelt, I agree with you boys. I do think it's soft, but it's this thing that he does have previous for. Unfortunately, it's given the referee that option to do it needlessly so, because as you say, I think I don't think there was any clear and obvious danger, but it is what it is. And yeah, again, I do agree with what I think Bhoys should put it up there with regards to what Lee Johnson says, that if you're given both of those kind of penalties, then you're going to be seeing a lot more penalties given all the time. Well, unless it's at Ibrox, of course, but you know what I mean. It disrupts the flow of the game, fouls and awards like that. But
see things like that. Sorry, Anthony.
No, you go.
Well, like say they two decisions at the weekend, right? And like say the O one the other week, even the one Morelos got a few weeks back with a jersey pull. Can't mind who it was against.
It was 11, is it not, wasn't it?
I think it maybe was. But they penalties, they fouls, whatever. They before VAR, they don't get given, right? Even if the referee sees it in real time, he doesn't give it. But when you watch it back in slow motion, on video evidence, it always looks worse for me. A thing like that always looks worse. It looks like he's held his jersey longer because it's slow motion. And they're going to start giving these now, and you'll see a lot more given, like Lee Johnson has said. You've seen a lot more already. They're never getting given before VAR. Never in a million years.
I would say as well, and that's one of my issues with VAR in general, not necessarily the awarding or anything, but it's when they go to look at the monitor, they only see it at like almost, it's either very, very slow motion or almost like a freeze frame. And you're like, show it in real time as well,
totally
let them see those multiple sort of angles and speeds, but it always seems to be they show you the replay, but it's not, the referee's not actually overlooking at it until it starts showing you, slowed down. And I think, like those says, it can make some quite fairly innocuous things look far worse than they actually are. But
I totally agree with showing them in real time. Totally agree with showing the replays in real time.
Yeah. And it's another eventful day on another eventful game for the ref and VAR. But yeah, the Jota penalty got us back into it. Evening Brown Warrior got us back into the game, and we huffed and puffed after that. Ross made a few substitutions. Funnily enough, just before the second goal went in, I joked to my dad that this is the exact type of game you needed Big GG for. Needless to say, our South Korean purchase from the winter transfer window came up trumps again. I've said that a few times on the podcast that I'm a big fan of his. I think he looks a real live one, but I thought it was an absolutely terrific header. It came just at the right time.
You've said that it was a brilliant piece of strength. He had two chances just before that. He said, he alluded to in his interview after the game that he felt like he should have took their chances. But I mean, he takes that chance. It's a big important goal. It's strength for the guy. He showed all his attributes in that one goal, and it's like he's not the same type of player as Giakoumakis. There's differences, but that had shades of Giakoumakis, and it's that different option for Kyogo that you need. But I mean, the goal comes at the right time. But again, I'll say it about that Celtic team. You watch games sometimes. I know we've equalised by that point, but sometimes you watch and you'll say, Ken, we'll just take the 1-1 here because... Aye. By the way, he's bang on.
Very similar.
Aye. But aye, so we've equalised by that point. Some teams will go, we'll just take the 1-1 here because we could play all day and no score again. But I don't know how you feel, but me sitting there watching that, I still felt we were going to score. I always feel we're going to get that winning goal. Anytime, after game 6 last season, every time we've even been sort of on the edge of maybe dropping points, we've come up with a goal all the time. I don't recall, obviously, bar the St Mirren game, which was just a really bad day. But apart from that, I think we've come up trumps all the time, even when we're not playing well, because we've just got so much threat in the top half of the park that if one of them is not doing it, we'll bring somebody else on and they'll do it. And that was proven. Brought on got the goal. Brought on Haksabanovic, I'm sure we'll touch on that, got the goal. It's just what we're all about.
Sure is, mate. It's like you say, Franny, as Ross says, terrific header, and as some of the boys are saying in the chat, quite unlike a lot of the goals that we scored against Juventus back in the Champions League night. But I think O's just been he's came in. He's obviously not. He's only started the one game, I think, still so far. But looks like he's just coming on. Every game that he comes on, he looks like he's adding a bit more to his game. And as I say, comes up trumps on Saturday. I have to say, like Ross, 99% of the time, I'm always, confident that we can get that winning goal. But I don't know if it was just because of the fact that we'd been behind all the sort of incidents that had happened in the game. And the fact that
you were going to die there, Tony. So
that just came back on me. Just the fact that as well, after yet another early kickoff on Sky for the Teddy Bears. That I thought this is just going to be a perfect storm. That they're going to get a couple of points back just as we're getting in for the international break. You could often almost see the mainstream media, in a torrent of glee at the prospect of it. Even Hugh Keevans, as always, got ahead of himself on Clyde 1. But again, they underestimated this Celtic side and its ability to win a game for the jaws of a draw.
Hugh Keevans no might be a Celtic fan. I'm starting to think he's just doing that.
Well, he says he was born a Celtic fan, but he's not. What is it? He says he's not green enough for the green side of Glasgow, so he's not trusted, and he'll never be trusted by the blue half because he was born in the green half. Personally, I think the guy's just an absolute prat, to be perfectly honest.
I just hope he keeps on saying
he's long consigned to the history books.
It's quite a few times he's done that this season now, and we've just scored minutes later. But I was a wee bit different for us watching that. It kind of was giving me the feeling that maybe this is a day that it's just not going to happen for you. Like you say, Rangers have kicked off early and got the 3 points they had. Maybe it spells if I never seen any of their game either, but maybe just looking at what the scoring things, they maybe had some tricky moments, but then they ground out a result. And then you're maybe looking at the Wales down to 10 men early, like Hibs down to 10 minutes, what was it, 25 minutes? They got a penalty just before half time. We've not played great and stuff, and it's like you say, the international break's coming up. It's if the game fizzles out like that, it's down to 6 points. The narrative can kind of change in the media, saying, "Oh well, it's the first sort of a slip in that. How will they react when they come back?" And that can kind of be playing on the players' minds. I don't think it would. I think the players are a lot more tuned in than that. But you just didn't know. It can be one of them, maybe more getting to the fan sort of a mindset, saying, "Oh well, maybe it's 6 points now with two games against Rangers. It's not as comfy as we maybe thought it was." But then you get that penalty, albeit Jota's a wee bit fortunate with it. But I think from that moment, I was confident we would go on and win the game because I always thought, right, we've got our tails up here. We'll create more chances. We will get more chances, and whether that might be another penalty stuff. But I think O's goal was just sheer determination to absolutely get that. I think Ross was right. There is shades of Giakoumakis in there who just overpowered the ball. It was always going to be him that was getting it, and it was good. It was. I think Ross actually said it in the group chat as well that for him, I think it's a massive goal because it was an important goal at the time and stuff. So he's seen it in him. It meant a lot to him. I think he's had an okay start. You can see there's a player in there. I think he has a real live wire and stuff, and very confident lad. I think both when he scored against St Mirren, he was up giving it the hands out like this, and then he's obviously got the top off at the weekend and stuff. But it certainly looks a confident figure. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of the guy. And I think next season could be massive for the boy. I think this goal will give him lots of confidence. But
yeah, I think so too. And same again, Franny. Obviously, another player that we've waxed lyrical about quite a lot recently. Sead Haksabanovic. Scored a great goal against Hearts a couple of weeks ago, and done the same again off the bench against the other team from Edinburgh on Saturday. He could be pushing for more and more game time as the season goes on.
As a player, I really, really rate. I'd maybe even argue he's our best wide player, but I think you've got to be playing by Ed and Jota when they're fit. As silly as that sounds, I think he's our best player, arguably our best wide player. I think trickery and how he can beat a man and get in. He seems to like that wee one where he cuts in and just bends it round. Like I think that's 3 times he's done that this season. But it's like I say, you can't be dropping Maeda for him now. Maeda is so important to the team and how he plays. Jota's the same. But I think that now we Haksabanovic, I seen an interview with him recently because I think it was after the Hearts goal that he scored, and then he was talking about how it's not been. Never said it was no ideal, but he was saying obviously he would like to get more minutes, but he understands his position in the team now. The team's playing well. He's been out injured. He can't expect to just be coming straight in and things. So he understands his part in the squad. He obviously got the chance against Hearts at Tynecastle, wasn't it? I feel like he got a start a couple of weeks ago. Just recently.
It was Tynecastle, aye.
And he didn't really do himself justice there and stuff. So it was Maeda was obviously wasn't injured or anything, so Maeda was always going to deservedly come back in. But it just shows the quality of us, and it shows players like maybe even Tumble as well. They know the position currently in the team, and they know you didn't hear about anybody like Haksabanovic, as I say, I think is a top player. Tumble, I'd argue, is a really good player as well, but they didn't seem to be upset in the dressing room. There's nobody, you didn't hear Ange coming out saying, folk are chatting my door asking why I'm not getting played and stuff. I think a lot of the players that maybe aren't starting, even if, like, look at Abada, like, look at his numbers are ridiculous, but he's not really getting a start now and stuff. So I think players know their role within the team, and yeah, it's up to Ange to kind of control that. And I think the 5 substitutes helps us. It allows them to give players more minutes. I mean, I'm a traditionalist, I would love to go back to the 3 subs, but I think it'd be harder to keep a lot of these players happy if we only got 3 subs.
It would, and it's obviously part of Ange's tactic. He likes to make that almost double or treble substitution at 60 minutes, and then keep 2 back for later on as the game goes on. And of course, more about Abada coming up very shortly. But Ross, what's your own thoughts on Haksabanovic? It's another great goal at the weekend, and he's just definitely playing his part as this season's going on.
Aye, he definitely is, and I would probably agree with Franny in terms of that. I said it myself a couple of weeks back that he's probably technically our best wide player. Jota's obviously got more tricks and flicks in that. I don't know if he's pushing for a starting berth now. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Maeda. He's had a couple of indifferent performances the last few weeks. I've been looking for him to get substituted and bring Haksabanovic or that on. Obviously, Haksabanovic played. He started against Hearts. He didn't do himself justice. Then you get Abada coming in. He gets a start. I think it was the game before the Tynecastle game. Abada started at Parkhead against Hearts. He didn't do himself justice. But I think it's difficult for these guys. They're coming in off the bench and they are making an impact in games. When you're giving them that start and they're not getting a run of games, it's difficult to sort of criticise them when they're not getting that run of games. They're just coming in and then they're back out the team. But certainly, like Franny, like most people, I'm a massive fan of Haksabanovic. I think he looks brilliant. There's nobody cuts inside the way he does and whips one into the corner. He's showed that. I mean, Jota comes in, he comes inside off the left and that and tries that, and he's not as accurate as Haksabanovic. He's got that sort of bit of culture about him. I really, really like him, and I think see, my issue with him is I don't know if he's got the engine to play in this team for the start. He looks more durable than some, as in terms of like stronger or that. But I don't know if he does enough in the press, if you like. So I don't know if that's what's keeping him out the team. But certainly, he's got all the ability to be able to be a very good Celtic player, and I've every faith in him. But if he's not starting and he's coming off the bench and doing what he's been doing, keep it coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't argue with that. As I say, as Alistair says, he's perhaps a little bit like Tam Rogic, with a wee bit more of a turn of pace. It's a very, very fair point. Well, boys, just whilst obviously, Franny, you're talking there about Leo Abada, our winger, right out on. We've just been some news come out today on the Daily Record, which they, I'm sure, would absolutely have loved to hear because they got to write something negative about Celtic. The president,
a big game coming up.
Yeah, that's it. He's the president of his former club is Maccabi Tikva. I've either nailed that or I've just done a Stephen special. But yeah, the president of his previous clubs just came out and basically said that he thinks it's going to be 90% sure that he's going to the Premier League this summer despite the fact that in January, Abada apparently stated that he didn't want to be sold. So there's a contradiction in terms of ever I've heard them, Franny. But, you know, he also claims that he's rejected a new deal by Celtic, even though, you know, not that we're obviously not privy to these things, but we don't know if there was even another offer on the table. In any case, he would obviously follow in that trend of, you know, Juranovic and Giakoumakis were these rumours to be true. But what's your sort of own take on the situation itself and, you know, worst case scenario, if it was true, what life without Leo Abada would be like at Celtic?
Personally, I think it's nonsense. I mean, I've obviously let Ross have his saying it. Like, he makes valid points like he did in the chat, so I'll let him come back with that when we're done. But like, I think he's got 2.5, 3 years left in his deal. For me, I don't see at this stage of the season we're looking to renew Abada's contract, or any player for that matter, with that length of time left in our contract. I just don't see you trying to, because very well to your offering it could sort of get a wee bit of unrest and within the fan base, maybe in the dressing room. If he is rejecting a contract, maybe fans will not necessarily turn on him, but maybe be on his case a wee bit more if he has games like the Hearts game and stuff, and they'll maybe be on his back a wee bit. So I don't think Celtic would want that kind of thing to be leaked out, or the potential of that to be leaked out at this stage of a season with so many big games coming up. I could be possibly miles off probably they could be offering him a contract that could be all true. I just find that a bit strange that the Daily Record are somehow talking to his it's not even his ex-manager, it's the guy that owned the team or something like that. So it feels a weird sort of article to print. As I say, none of us are privy to it. We don't know. We'll only have our own theories on it and stuff. But for me, it would seem strange. I'm not silly to think that a foreign player, especially a young one of Abada's age, has came to Celtic and looking at Celtic as a stepping stone to get to the Premiership. I think we would all be naive if we didn't think that was his sort of long-term plans, that he wants to move on for Celtic and go somewhere down south where it is the holy grail for a lot of these players and stuff, is to get to the Premiership. They know the money it can make, they know it's life-changing, and that might even just be going to like a Southampton, like a Brighton, a Crystal Palace. It doesn't need to be the big guns. As long as they can say they've been at the English Premiership, it's kind of, that's a trophy alone for some of these boys. So I think also we'd be selling, not necessarily, I don't think Ange's necessarily selling Celtic as a stepping stone, but probably saying, you come here, listen to me, essentially. I'll give you a chance to sort of showcase your ability, and the world's your oyster, essentially. But for me, I think the story's nonsense, but also I would be naive to think that I'm not silly to not think that the guy's not looking to advance his career somewhere down the line and likely be in the EPL.
Yeah, I think that we can definitely see, Ross, that he's certainly got the ability to ply his trade down there. As always, what I often think, though, as it happens often with a lot of players that leave Celtic, you know, they seem to almost, sometimes it can be that it could be in a hurry to do it. Maybe I would argue that maybe at least another year here, learning under Ange would probably be the best for him. But as Antonio says here, I think in previous, if you to tell us, like last year, even this time last year, say that Giakoumakis and Juranovic would be gone in less than a calendar year, and yet we'd still be as strong as we are, I don't think these potential departures send the same shockwaves that they do. If anything, Ange's almost preempted it with his comments at the AGM that year, last Christmas, when he says, you know, this possibly will happen more and more often. But I would imagine that even if worst case scenario it is true, that Ange will already have other targets in mind.
Well, I sort of alluded to that earlier on when we were talking about it in the group chat. I think that, I mean, we're hearing this rumour, Franny, was it you said it's his ex-boss at Maccabi
I don't think it's the man. I don't think it's the manager. I think it's the guy that actually won the team or something.
Right.
The president,
well, I mean,
called Avi Isvon.
Right. Well, I mean, he's nothing to do with Celtic. That guy. I don't know what he's got to gain out of saying what he's saying. I can't remember how long Abada's got left on his current contract, but for me, regardless, I think that whether it be Ange or somebody representing Ange, because he likes to stick to the football, Celtic as a club will be in constant dialogue with all the players to find out where their head's at, because, as we know, the team's constantly evolving. Ange is constantly looking to get stronger, better, and it's just how we've been working. But I don't like to get too caught up in a rumour that I see in the Daily Record about one of our players. I mean, Abada, like many players before, will eventually leave Celtic. Wherever he goes, fine. But as I say, we'll be in constant dialogue, just purely because Ange, if Abada is wanting to leave in the summer, he needs to make contingency plans and have another guy lined up, like you have said, similar to Juranovic. Rumoured for ages that he was going, but Celtic would have been speaking to him, and they evidently knew he was going to go, and they already had the replacement in before he left. Giakoumakis left. That sort of dragged on a bit, but it was so we could get Owen, for me, and it'll be the same with Abada. Listen, I think Abada's a great player. He's young. I think he should stay here for at least another year, probably two, because I know he's not playing all the time now, but he'll get his chance again, and it's not like he's lost form. It's just difficult to get into the team, but he's young, like I say. But at the end of the day, he's no starting the now. And if he does decide to go in the summer, I think he'll, I don't like to say that, he'll not be a really, really difficult player to replace. I think there's plenty other players, not off the top of my head, but there's plenty other players that play similar to Abada and can come in and do a job at Celtic. And Angel already have identified him if Abada is making noises that he wants to go. But personally, I don't see it. The player doesn't look like it. He comes on. He came on at St Mirren. He's trying his damnedest. I'm sure he got a goal that day. But I'm not worried about it at all, because the way Celtic are working now, we've said it numerous times, they are acting like a big club right now, and Angel will not let them rest on their laurels, not for 1 second. And he, like I've said already, he will be, or somebody will be talking to all the players to see where their head's at, and if it's not with Celtic, Angel will be making plans for them to go, and already have plans in place for to bring guys in. I won't be one bit surprised if we see one of our top players in this squad leave in the summer. But you can bet your boots, Angel will have somebody already lined up to replace them.
I can't really add any more to that, mate. That's pretty much kind of sums it all up. As I said, I think regardless of whether the rumours are true, false, whatever, I think as long as Ange is still in charge and pulling the shots, pulling the strings and calling the shots, I think we'll do just fine. And just one other wee point I'd like to bring up, Ross, just on Saturday, we had a familiar face returned to Celtic Park. Michael Lustig came back. I think he was doing the Celtic TV punditry, and then he came out and done the Paradise Windfall. He got a great reception, to say a kind of bona fide modern day legend at the club, with all the honours that he won and the rapport he had with the fans. Him and Brunier, of course, doing their night at the Hydro in May, where they'll be able to get a proper send-off. It was good to see him back.
Absolutely. I thought he was a great player for Celtic when he first came in. Similar to most guys that stay for that length of time, you never expect it. you never expect him to stay that long. But we're talking about guy. I mentioned Lustig the other night when we were talking about guys like people are saying maybe players will want to move on if they're not going to be getting picked for their country because of where they're playing. And Lustig stayed at Celtic for 7 years, gave us 7 great years, and he got picked for Sweden all the time. He was a quality player, and he just again bought into everything that the club is about, and like most that come to Celtic, he falls in love with the club. Aye, it was totally agree, boys. But aye, he falls in love with the club, and now Celtic's just part of his life. You see, I don't know if it's I think it's Instagram I follow him on, and he doesn't miss the games. He watches all the games, and he still likes to have his wee digs at the Rangers fans and that, wee smart comments and stuff like that. So he's just a fan now. He was lucky enough to probably not know a great deal about Celtic. Maybe just off of like Henrik Larsson playing at the club and stuff, Mjällby. So he's got that affinity there. But then he comes to the club and he falls in love, and he's left, but he's still a Celtic fan now.
Absolutely, a Celt for life, Franny. And like you say on his Instagram account, I think it was his wife was recording it whilst he went round and done the one fall and stuff with his kids. And when he put the video up, he just said that it felt like he was back home. It just shows you, I'm sure he's got his own, loyalties in Sweden and stuff. But as Ross says, but now until his last day, he'll always be cheering on Celtic as well.
Well, that's like he came in. I think it was like a January signing and stuff, and he won a league title every season he was here. So I mean, he's got that. He's got that to go for. He's must have double digits anyway in trophies, because I'm sure he would have picked up a few domestic honours along the way. So be one of our most decorated players if you actually look at his career at Celtic. And he was one of the guys that kind of got it early on, but he was a good player. He continued to play for Sweden and stuff, or maybe got in the Sweden squad on the back of his form at Celtic and held that position. Don't know where that was going for. Position down nearly every international. He was kind of always picked for it and stuff, and it was a way. I think if you're a Rangers fan, you maybe hate him. He seemed to like getting one over them. He liked that. I think he only scored one, but he celebrated that against them really well. Then obviously he had the James Forrest goal where he grabs the policeman's hat and things like that. And so he had a character. Well, that was it. He had the characters. I think there's always that video of him kind of playing a piano or something to some rave tune in the gym starting at Parkhead. So he's got plenty of highlights on and off the park and stuff. And I think the biggest credit you can give the guy is the amount of right backs we went through in about 3 seasons to try to replace him. I think that's the biggest credit you can actually give the guy.
Yeah.
What we're saying though, is he getting into this team before Alistair Johnston?
Oh, that's horrendous.
which in itself is a great compliment to Alistair Johnston.
Aye, I know. Aye, absolutely.
I do think Lustig would.
I would go with either now.
I just love him. Like I'd be hard to.
So they are.
I think I'm going either now, but I mean Johnston's only in the door, so we both.
I'll give Johnston his due as well. He's got obviously he's Canadian, but he's got that kind of patter about him as well. Like he likes doing the wind up stuff as well. Already, like he's bought into the kind of similar vibes that Lustig did as well. But yeah, he'll always be welcome back at Celtic Park. And as I say, hopefully we can pack out the hydro for him and Scott Brown. And I think it's 18th of May. Sometimes it's near the end of the season, so yeah, should be quite a night at the arena. Here's hoping it's a sellout.
I think there's still tickets available now.
I think there is. Well, I'm taking my dad to the one at the Armadillo the week before, so yeah, funds are a bit tight. I think Chris Sutton's interviewing the 97-98 team because it's the 25th anniversary stopping the 10, so we're going to that.
Oh, that's good.
Unfortunately, I'll not be able to make it along to the hydro. Funds didn't stretch that far, but I'm sure whoever's going along it'll be a good night. But in terms of this show, boys, I think that's pretty much. I've got nothing else to tick off on the running chart anyway. So, how he's enjoyed that?
Yeah,
it's
man.
been good. You obviously looked up at that clock and freaked out that it was getting close to an hour, Anthony.
Oh man, sweat's running down my back, son. When we were running 5 minutes late, I was like, "Fucking hell, man! I might not be off by 9 o'clock."
You need an impromptu quiz to take it up to the hour. I can't cope with that.
Oh, no, but as long as it's still 55, that's what I was. That's what I was. I should always have a quiz book at hand. That's a lesson learned for today. But of course, there's always the next show coming up as well. We'll preview Friday's one. We're going to do. I think it's me, Wally, and I'm not sure if it's anybody else at the moment. But we're going to be doing a Champions League rewind on Friday night, just being the international break. We're going to be looking back at. We've been doing this throughout the season, just looking back at campaigns for years gone by. So we're up to season 2008-9 now. It was Gordon Strachan's final one as Celtic manager. It's not going to be one of our more cheerier episodes. We finished fourth, and all in all, it was a pretty hopeless campaign, to be honest. So we're going to try and tailor in the build-up to the Euro 24 qualifiers on the same show as well, just to give us something else to talk about, to be honest. The other question, do you know that one, Ross?
The last Celtic player to score a penalty against Rangers?
Oh no, just the last player. Just the last player.
Oh, just the last player. Don't know. Jimmy Johnson.
Do you know that?
Jimmy Johnson.
No idea, man.
It wasn't yesterday. But no, thanks again, boys. It was always good having you two on a Monday night, shooting the breeze about all things Celtic. And thanks again to everybody in the comments as well for getting involved and tuning in. If you've enjoyed it, you know what to do. Hit the wee like button, as Phil McGinley says, and maybe recommend us to a few friends as well. And if you hit the little subscribe button and the wee bell notification, you'll always find out when we're live. There you go, Lewis Ferguson. So as I say, don't imagine that being yesterday. Here's hoping it's not too long before he gets another one. Hopefully I might have a beard again by then. But say no more. But no, thanks again, everybody. Appreciate it. And we'll see you on Friday night. Until then, to coin Stephen's phrase, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.